Hey guys, in this video I want to talk about the act of rationalization, or the penchant to rationalize fear when you don't want to do things. And this is something that I used to deal with a lot, throughout my whole 27 years of living, and it was something that I had to really work hard to fix. And it's something that I see a lot of people, uh, I guess it's hard to see in society because people don't really tell you what they're thinking all the time and what decisions they make in life. But at least in YouTube, and I guess in real life, you do see a lot of people go through this act of rationalization in order to justify why they specifically don't do things. So in this case, I'm defining rationalization really as the coping mechanism that we use when we want to do something, but we don't necessarily do, or we are sort of bad at, and we try to make sense of it. And so you might be thinking that, hey, rationalization is pretty necessary to survive in life. You need to be able to logic and reason in order to improve and to understand things and to have a greater ability to adapt and think about how the world works, the systems we live in. And I could agree with you that yes, it's important to rationalize and to have a good understanding of logic and systematic thinking, because it's helped me in life. It's helped me get a job, and I feel like once I've had it, I've been able to truly understand things at a very much deeper level. But even with the benefits, I think we sometimes forget what our life could be without that, because that's not something we really consider. You could say that it's a unknown unknown, and that we don't even think what it would be like to not have the capability to rationalize, or simply not have that skill to self-reflect and imagine what type of life we live. Because by definition, if you're able to self-reflect, then you have the capability of imagining, and it's very difficult to imagine what it's like not to be able to imagine in that sense. So it's sort of contradictory in nature, and it's really hard to think of how you'd be able to live a life without as much consciousness, so to speak. You might think it's boring because so much of our life is filled with our own thoughts, and we wouldn't know how we would survive without all those thoughts and questioning and reflection in our minds. But you don't know, or it's hard to imagine like life actually being interesting even without that. And I'm here to tell you that it actually is. It's it's much more interesting, and it's much more fun. And how do I explain that? Basically, without telling you, without explaining what it's like, uh, uh, I want to tell you um, I guess, my own feelings towards it. And so when I wasn't rational, when I was a kid, and I guess somewhat right before college, for example, I I didn't actually think logically. I just like sort of did everything that first came to mind, and I was very impulsive. Um, I I didn't have a girlfriend, that's for sure, and I wasn't the most charismatic person. But I think looking back on high school, I actually had a lot of fun. Um, I just whenever I had an idea, I wanted to do it, and sometimes I'd be afraid, but for the most part, I had the courage to go and accomplish what I did, other than talking to girls. I think I rationalized a lot on that, but I guess I forgot most of that. But there was this feeling, I guess, back in high school that I didn't really think too much. I think I had intuitions on what happens, and I had ability to sense people, but I didn't necessarily like analyze that. A lot of my decisions were very rash and impulsive, and I really enjoyed spending time with friends and everything. It was just live and react, and I was able to accomplish a lot of things I was really proud of back in high school. I made music. I performed it when I had no, performance background in terms of um, like piano, which is what I did. I worked on a software app for a school, and I just like decided to get into it. I asked a friend, and I stuck to it, and there was no sort of ulterior motives or anything like that. I was just wanted to do it, and I stopped working on the app after sophomore year because I wanted to make more music. I became more interested in that, and I dove headfirst into it, and it's just because I really liked listening to electronic music, and I wanted to do it myself. There wasn't really much thought to it, and so I remember those times in high school when I just really enjoyed being around people and being around my friends and having conversations and giving hot takes and stuff like that. I just said whatever was on my mind. And there were struggles with it because like I really wanted a girlfriend, and I guess I definitely jerked off a lot in high school, but um, like I wasn't so successful with that. But I think it was nice seeing me grow and push myself and just I don't know, just not think, and even being shy, but just not questioning too much, just going off instinct. And that was a really fun time. I think when we're young, we sort of don't develop that habit of self-consciousness, and when we look back, it's like it really feels we were a lot more alive back then. That's a common thing that people say here, but they don't really explain why. And I guess that's ironic because it's like a rationalization, but I won't get too into it. But in college, I think that's where I really developed self-consciousness. It was actually through a lot of red pill stuff, I think. But it was this recognition that maybe people like trying to reason why people didn't want to talk to me, and I got into my head that these power dynamics, and maybe people didn't want to talk to me because I wasn't inherently liked. And if people didn't inherently like me, then why should I, or then I wouldn't want to bother them in the first place because, um, my presence isn't needed. And that really got into my head, this sort of logical reasoning when it comes to just being wanted and being people enjoying my presence when it comes to conversation. And you know, the more I thought about it, the more it made sense for me not to engage because, and when I think of from other people's perspective, um, it's like they don't really lose anything from not talking to me because they didn't want to talk to me in the first place. And I really regret that. I think things didn't actually get better when I started doing that. I became quite neurotic, and not as much as I am today, but I sort of mm, I forgot what's the word, but you sheltered in. I sort of went inside myself. I didn't really spend time with people. I didn't really make any friends in college. I don't keep in touch with anyone from college actually right now. And I went to a pretty good institution. Uh, I went to Brown actually for those who are wondering. And it's really a shame because college is one of the only times when you can meet so many young people, especially a four-year campus when everyone is on campus and seeing each other. You just have so many opportunities to just talk to people and just not be rational and just even if things don't work out, to simply train to just take every single opportunity and just say F it. I know it's very cliche, but it's sort of a catch-22 because sometimes you have to be wise enough to be able to understand that it's not about other people, it's really about yourself. And if you enjoy talking to people and you want to talk to people, it's just about your own enjoyment. Like, fuck what other people want to, whether they enjoy it or not. I'm having fun. I don't care if you're having fun, sort of a mentality. But it takes time. It takes a lot of wisdom and a lot of loss and suffering to get to that point. And that's something I didn't really have back then. And it really affected me after college. I wanted to drop out actually. I wanted to graduate as soon as possible because I hated being there. And after college, I was lucky enough to get a girlfriend, but I won't get into it now. It was the most important year of my life, and I still hold on to it even though we broke up after a year together. Um, but now, as I grow older, I'm 27 and I've dealt with a whole bad lot of, mental stress and really severe anxiety that occurred like 2 years ago, and just rationalizing everything and rationalizing things to the point, like really stupid things like learning how to talk or how to have a like really, really deep, not deep, but just super meta stuff that isn't helpful because I just wanted to think or logic my way to just fulfillment in life, and it just made my life so much worse. It made my life pretty terrible. I don't know if I can say this here, but it's I question whether I still wanted to be here. And yeah, I think over time, in order to survive, I really learned how to. I could just feel when I started rationalizing, when I was afraid of something, and then I would start to reason like, okay, I don't need to do this now. I'll do this tomorrow. It's like I can do something else. Like I can immediately recognize those patterns in me now. And back then I would, really go down that rabbit hole and I couldn't like be comfortable with myself until I convinced myself through logic that what I was doing, like my avoidance was okay. But now I really just try to rely on intuition and emotion and feeling to not only to do stuff, but also to learn. I truly believe you don't need rationalization or logic to learn and adapt in society. You really just need your feelings. If something's good or bad, you have a really intuitive sense of what to do, and it might feel really slow at first because you have no way to describe how you're improving, or what path or how much progress you're making. It's just based on vibes. You can't really measure vibes. But that's exactly why we tend to fall into rationalization, because we want to measure it. We really want to have some feeling to keep going, um, but the true growth, the true learning is really just trusting your intuition, and just seeing it through. And I'm sort of losing my train of thought here, but what I'm trying to say is that from my own experience, real human growth comes from emotion. It comes from trusting your emotion. It comes from trusting your intuition. It comes from not, it does not come from rationalization. When we say consciousness was humans' biggest mistake, we tend to, what I interpret it as, is rationalization. To me, rationalization is the same thing as consciousness, and it's like self-reflection and basically self-reflection. I don't think self-reflection is necessary. I think it's actually very counterproductive. And now I always tell people to just not think, to just when when they're like thinking about stuff, or I don't know, I always tell people like just do it. Like it doesn't matter, or it is what it is. Like we always just say those things. I really hate I can sense when I'm trying to explain things to people, and sometimes that's the only thing that comes to mind. But I do have a bad feeling when that happens, and I just I just hope that other people, they can have the same understanding that I've had. Uh, and it's unfortunate for me that it took me 27 years to realize this, as opposed to when I was in high school, and just it's sort of like I said, it's a catch-22. You can't know this without self-reflection and everything. But I just hope some people, when they're just looking at me and they're seeing what I'm saying, they're like, yeah, that makes sense. They're not, it's just, it is what it is what I'm saying. So yeah, just do whatever. It's your feelings and your intuition are a lot more accurate than you think. And humans for millions of years, I don't know, since uh, the Neanderthals, like Homer Simpson, like they be surviving pretty good, even without any logical thinking. Like it's just straight from the heart. They have a brain, but it works how a brain should work. So we need to learn how to be more like, you know, like prehistoric. I'm prehistoric maxing. That's what I'm doing. So yeah, that's my thoughts on just how to think, or not thereof, and just how to live. So good stuff.